Welcome to the pod, everyone. Shout out to SGS.
Hey, Rusty, why are we partnering with SGS?
Some good people there. Pretty excited about their sports coaching courses and sports courses. Keen to make them industry ready, so when people leave, they're able to go and transfer into any kind of industries, coaching, teaching, being an analyst, business, whatever it might be. So I think it's pretty exciting times, really.
So what's so special about their degree courses that others won't be doing?
I think it'll be lots of real good partnerships, opportunities for people to get into different contexts and learn and practice. It'll feel very applied. People will be stretched and supported and will leave ready to just go and thrive in the big old world out there.
SGS College is the home of Bristol's higher education sports programmes. The programmes are designed to develop unique, innovative and creative sports practitioners ready for industry. Do you want to be a coach or teacher of the future? Start your journey here at SGS College and become more than just a graduate. Visit sgscol.ac.uk to apply now.
Let's go, Captain Fletch. What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about the Six Nations. We're going to talk about, it's still relatively recent. Just let's get into what have we noticed? I mean, we wouldn't have analysed it that much. We would have watched the games, would have heard a lot, read a bit. Let's just have a conversation on what we're both thinking.
Two drunken fellas in the pub with no rugby knowledge whatsoever. Can we talk about Robot Wars first?
Yeah, let's go. What do you want to talk about?
What are you thinking?
What we did last night?
Yeah,
I thought it was class. I think to create that as a platform, it's a really playful platform. I love the sort of levels we played through and the creativity that went into the questioning and using videos, and people just had opportunities to feedback, got points. I think you could run a really a cool conferencey type thing around it. Probably mix up the groups a bit, jump in and out of groups, be a bit more intentional about that. I love the fact that you were a bit stressed. It was I
was only acting. I love the fact that you were so impressed by my acting skills.
It was good acting. It definitely looked real. But go on, what did you like?
Same. I think as lockdown's gone on, I think people are becoming more and more skillful with online stuff, and we've probably gone from this kind of sharing content to some more sense-making opportunities and breakout-y type stuff, and that for me was it was probably one of my favorite. It wasn't Zooms, it was Remo, but just one of my favorite experiences because it was things that were relevant to people's contexts. You get to meet some new people, you get to chew the fat, come up with solutions, talk about what it might depend upon. There's a competitive element. Ross couldn't keep score. Dan brings kind of calmness and chaos in the same breath. And obviously the fact that we won. Probably my favourite bit was when we were in the last room with me, you, Rachel, Danny Newcomb and Tim Marshall, who'd sneaked in. And Danny was going, "This has just exposed how uncreative I am. I can't think. I can't do this." So I did enjoy that. It's not true, but under pressure to come up with a story for a team was a good challenge.
Yeah, and the fact that it was a team doing it, that's what was agitated me, because I don't know if you were deliberately being a bit silly, and Danny was like, "Oh, I can't do it," and I was just getting agitated. I just wanted to get on with it. I just wanted to and I love the competition. I was definitely thinking about I want to do well.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool, and hats off to Ross, Rachel, Dan. I think they're doing a great job, and and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, strong. Come on then, what's Six Nations? What's your Six Nations chat?
Look, don't know how you want to play it. I probably want to go through the table a little bit. What have we noticed? So it was a peculiar year, wasn't it? Come off the back of the autumn stuff. So that not that long ago since the World Cup, COVID. loads of constraint stuff going on around the environment, and just what did we notice about how they played, and what's the assumptions or the perceptions we have around like what might their training have looked like. So go on, Italy. Well, what's your views on Italy? Because there's pretty strong comments around there should be relegation and or they're not worthy. What about Georgia? What were your views on them generally, Italy?
And you landed it on me in lockdown when you said, well, they'd go bankrupt if they weren't in it. So I kind of, and I definitely would feel sorry for them. So I would want to give them a hug and a tickle, as you would say. They're in the wrong competition. I can't imagine there's many international teams with as poor a winning record in that. Or, they play with one more player than everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Or their tries are worth double. Do you know what I mean? Like they just need a bit of a leg up. Young halfbacks, I thought, did well. They have got youngsters coming through. Their age grade stuff's been good. Their kind of Pro 14 teams are, I genuinely don't know. I was thinking, wouldn't it be, imagine the competition if we took out Italy and South Africa were here.
Yeah, and I guess people will be thinking about that, certainly the commercial people. However, I do think maybe counter argument, like rugby needs to grow, like we need to grow the game a bit. Actually, could there be part of, and I don't know if this is possible, but like having back in the day when there was A-League teams, England would probably put out a couple of teams. I think they'd get an England A team a good game with all due respect. Georgia probably push up into that as well. So those nations that are quite big nations, so you probably certainly think in England, France, have an A team, add in Georgia, have Italy, there you go. You've got a 14 competition. The big nations are given opportunities to more players. And somewhere like Georgia and Italy are actually in a competition framework that's going to be helpful, because it can't be that exciting getting beat all the time. So that's maybe something that that's quite creative.
I wonder how many times under the post they said, "Come on, it's 0-0. It's 0-0."
Well, I'm not sure they would have spoken English, but yeah, I guess. It would have been a lot, wouldn't it? I think it's tough. They've had a number of coaches and managers, and fundamentally, I do think they're improving. I think if you watch them a bit, we're aware of their age group team. One of our last games was when the Italy team beat an England under-18 team, first time ever, and they had a very strong year, really strong year, where they beat everybody. They beat Wales, they beat France, they beat us, and those guys are coming through. They've lost a couple to injury, some long-term injury stuff, and some of the forwards will take a bit of time to physically mature and come through. But the halfbacks, one of their outside backs, there's a couple more that will come through. However, they don't have the depth. Still struggling a little bit with their identity, I think, in terms of like what does an Italian team kind of play for and stand for. And then as soon as they get any dints into their starting team or their bench comes on, they clearly find it even more difficult. So at the end of the game, people are pulling away from them.
And it would be good for you if Georgia came up, because you're the king of Georgia and renowned for your drinking prowess in Tbilisi.
Yeah, Tbilisi. That was a dark day. So yeah, spend some time over there. They have some traditional stuff that they drink just all the time, just randomly. So somebody says something or stands up and does something, you got to drink this stuff that tastes like paint stripper. I can only imagine what paint stripper. And I don't drink a lot of alcohol, and I was proper poorly. I thought I was going to die, quite frankly. It was awful. It's actually brought me off going back to Georgia. But yeah, look, on the Georgian thing, I think Georgia and Italy would be evenly matched. I think Italy would probably win more than Georgia from the bits I've seen. I think it'd probably be like 7-3 in games over 10-match series. So Georgia are improving. However, they are still way off a bit. Yeah, it is a difficult one, and I do feel for them, and it's not helpful for the competition, is it? Like people are getting into them a bit, and
where would Italy finish in the Premiership?
Yeah, I think they'd get into Europe. I don't think they'd I think they struggle to get top 4, or they'd maybe be top 4. I think Exeter and there'd be a number of teams. Bristol would sort of beat them and stuff. But why? Well, what do you think? Are you thinking they'd be towards the bottom?
Yeah, I think they'd be bottom half of the league.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think they'd probably be top half. I think and I've been out lately, so I'm aware of what the club level sits, but they're working really hard. It's not that they're not, they're not trying. As I said, their age group stuff is significantly stronger, significantly better. They've got some structures and processes in place, and they do have talent. They are good games players. They're good soccer players, real good handball players. Team sports and.
Maybe you should play half of handball. Like give them a chance. Play half of handball.
Yeah, maybe they should have a different constraint that they're allowed to play offside, or they're afforded a bit more time on the ball, so the offside line goes back a little bit. And that's actually ultimately what you would do in a development program, wouldn't it? Is that you change the rules, give some people some superpowers. Yeah, look, I think they'll sort of reflect and disappoint, only scoring 55 points in 5 games and conceding 239. I mean, they're big. I mean, they're big numbers. They don't tell the whole picture. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Mate, let's go on to the next one. So the team that finished 5th. I'm going to quiz you. Do you actually know who finished 5th? Who finished 5th?
England finished 5th today.
Well done. Yeah. Well, what's your views from somebody who spent? You spend a bit of time in there. We all know lots of the staff, lots of the players. What stuff did you notice?
Yeah, look, and I haven't been in before Christmas, and it's interesting, isn't it? Like, if you actually look back on England over the last few years, like we've got to a World Cup final, we've won a Six Nations, we've won an Autumn Nations Cup, and then I don't know, like it's strange, isn't it? It's a couple of games that are tight. They are a blade of grass type stuff. Definitely think that, I mean, you would know as well, but the COVID restrictions had significant impacts, like players having, not being able to socialise, being in their rooms for meetings. I know the other teams weren't that strict, but I do think that has some kind of impact on your connect. I mean, ultimately, playing sports about connection and trust and those conversations, and it's weird that you'd be Zooming someone in the room next to you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, my understanding is that it's not that they were relaxed. I think that just had some different constraints, maybe some different, some different rules around it. But the noise that we both heard coming out of England, that England found it really difficult. That stuff's as important, especially 2 or 3 players who were trying to integrate into the team. They found it quite tough. I would imagine the forwards found it tough because they love being together, don't they? Whenever I'm working with a team, it's always the low numbers are like the high numbers are often a bit more quirky and.
Well, same from a coaching perspective. So, like, imagine if we were like in a coaching team, but this was how we were planning and talking and reviewing and reflecting, and we had Craigie on the computer in the corner, and he was what it's just not that normal. Is my view. And what I would say is at our best we were brilliant, and at our worst we weren't. So the game against France, imagine if we played with that intent. I mean, France generally played with that intent throughout. Quick line.
Why was that, mate? What's your thinking of what did it take for England to? Because I mean, my understanding is that it was a bit of intent. Messaging was, look, let's get the shackles off a bit. Let's play to our strengths. Let's kind of like give them a bit of a, and there was clearly a lot of strategic stuff as well. They would have a lot of plans and stuff, but it looked like a different England, albeit they had lots of good moments against Wales. And speaking to a couple of the players, they would say actually some of our best moments in attack, especially, were against the Welsh. We just didn't quite finish it off. We actually created a lot, got into their 22 a bit, but why did we play like that against France, or have that result against France and then?
I don't know. Often you innovate or disrupt when you're losing, don't you? It's quite rare, I think, for teams to be really good at disrupting or innovating or predicting what if when they're winning, and then, you know, a couple of results don't go your way, and then you actually, that can often be quite liberating for people.
And is there anything, because again, I hear this from England, that they actually prefer that underdog stuff. They prefer the backs against the wall. It's easier to get up for it, have a bit of a why, like sod them type thing. Is that what's your feelings around that?
I don't know, really. Lots of teams over the years have used it, haven't they? I think it's got a shelf life. But yeah, the crazy gang, I'm thinking of those. It definitely reminds me of being back at Rotherham. I was saying that to someone today. We play against teams that Worcester would have, you know, everyone knew they were like, they have double the salary of all our players. They've got internationals. They've got all the nice kit and amazing training facility. And we train on Herringthorpe Field, and we have to clear off the dog poo, and we have a fish finger sandwich in the bar afterwards on a good day. But we knew we were always going to beat them because we were like Jossie's Giants. You know, we were connected, and we have this kind of underdogs, and yeah, I mean, I think it's a powerful thing. But I guess we're often favourites, so you don't get to use it that often if you're England. And flip side of it is that the Celtic nations have that against us every time, so we know what's, you know, and sometimes that can be a bit of a take care for them because they often don't do that against other nations. So fair play to Wales, they have, you know, they've been pretty consistent throughout.
Yeah, thinking about an England thing and not sharing what you sort of notice when you're in there, but just from watching the games, if you are now head coach, so Eddie's taking a sabbatical, he's sort of heading off wherever. He's going to Georgia. What's the 2 or 3 things that you think your main focus would be before the next game?
Having seen training, I'd like us to play like we train more. So I think the France game looked like an England training session. So I think it's probably, I wouldn't have enough intel on what does the messaging look like 24 hours before the game, because clearly you can do all the training in the world, and then if you say, but don't mess up, and I'm not saying they're saying that, but that kind of messaging can unravel some stuff. I mean, and also I know it's been hard because of COVID. I would have switched to possibly a couple of players in and freshen that up. I think is a good chance to do it.
Who would they be? That was going to be my next question, actually. So I'll come back to who would you? And you don't have to say you're going to leave out unless you want to. But like, which players are in good form? That
Marcus
who, mate? Who's this Marcus guy you keep talking about?
Watson.
He was called Marcus Watson earlier, wasn't he? I enjoyed that.
I don't know if you meant, Marcus Smith. Mate, I mean, you've got to find out at some point whether Don Brandt's an international player or not, whether he's just a really good club player. I know he's old, but Danny Kerr's killing it, isn't he? And I feel harsh that I'm just picking some of the Quins lads, but yeah, I guess you've got to find out at some point. And in the summer we're going to play Canada and America, and I mean you're probably not going to find out in those games, quite frankly. No disrespect to Canada or America. Maybe Max a little bit earlier. So Max Malins has clearly done some good stuff, and yeah, those are some of the guys I'm thinking of. Why? Who are you thinking of?
Not necessarily. Yeah, I would have chucked a few more into training just to have a look. I think it's really difficult to make any form of assessment just from the competition. So it's equivalent to us watching school and academy games. Like, you want to get them in, have a look at them and get to know their character a little bit. And as you said, the ultimate test is chuck them into some games and sort of see how they play. Because we've both coached players that actually they're actually much better in certain environments. There'll be a number of players who play their best rugby in an international team. Or
Cam Redpath.
Cam Redpath, yeah, just had a really strong performance. I think England are in a fortunate position. I think we've got some outstanding outside backs. which I think is, I think Parton's playing really well, the Glanville, Hodge. I think we've got some really exciting backs who like taking people on, who are comfortable with the ball. I think Simmons, I think we've got to give him a run of games and then make some decisions, some objective, let's get some data. Like, how does he compare to the existing back row and the stuff that England feels really valuable? I think he's deserved a chance. He's been quite outstanding the last few weeks. I think he's in really good form, loads of confidence, and let's see if you can transfer it. I agree with you. Don Brandt, Marcus Smith would be two obvious ones. They would be the ones that sort of stand out. I think everybody else is.
I was just looking. There was someone put some stats on Twitter yesterday. So the two best performing wingers, like when they get touches, according to the stats, and I didn't read into too much depth, were McConaughey and Will Muir. Both come from Sevens programme, Pineapple.
Oh, Pineapple.
But yeah, it was interesting, isn't it? Whether you'd ever pick Rory again, like his aerial skills are class, which is really important at international. He's kind of beats people, and he reminds me a bit of Josh Adams, who almost shouldn't be a good rugby player, but he's really effective. Apologies for that, Rory. And the same with Will Muir, really. Like, wouldn't necessarily look like he's running how you would expect someone who's really quick to run, but he's just beating defenders.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. So other than, obviously we can make some changes, and that's interesting on the players who you're thinking, but anything else that you would be coaching? What else would you be thinking as the head coach of England? It's my bias, obviously, but I just think we should be keeping the ball off the floor and we should be offloading. And I was speaking to a coach at a club yesterday, and I just I can see what your training looks like from what your support players do. So I'm not looking at the guy on the ball, I'm looking at the two or three people around them, and it would indicate that you do a lot of, going to ground, presenting the ball, 1 over, scrum off, build the phases type stuff. I think we've got to be able to, if we're going to win a World Cup, then we've got to be able to do that, would be my view. Yeah, to me, it's around disrupting the front line and the back line. That's so defences will be, they might have somewhere in the middle, sometimes have this little float in, but that's less relevant. But so how can you disrupt them? And I don't see, not unless everybody's keeping their cards to their chest a little bit. There was some different stuff around in the 22 generally, not just England. There was some stuff that I seen that was different. But I think if we're not careful from an attack point of view, we're all doing really similar stuff, and the defence are very used to training against it. And then our disruption becomes only by pressure and penalties. Which I do think a lot of teams are playing for. A lot of teams are playing for getting the referee to go, actually, that's an offence, get it in the corner, get in the 22. And we know how lots of teams are going around the 22, around the maul and the pick and go, which I get, and I certainly value. Like, believe it or not, I do like a driving maul. And I love it when they do that spinny thing that Walsh used to try and get us all to do. I used to love that type of thing. But I just think we can disrupt the front line more. I think we'll be more creative around our support. And generally play faster, as you know, and you might now come with the stats that when you recycle the ball really quickly, the defence are disrupted. They're finding it difficult.
Steph Nell, Rotherham, 2005 maybe, Spider Maul, spinning them all around. Spider Maul.
I do love his spinning.
50% training, zero transfer to the game. And I think the stat I heard was any ruck, pretty much international rugby, quicker than 1.7 seconds means the defence is not set. And ultimately, that's your best outcome, isn't it? That if you do have a ruck, the defence isn't set. And so lifting it, keeping the ball alive, all that stuff would be
not waiting for
relevant. And the other thing I would add in terms of attack is and probably the reason I would look at Danny Kerr is just the attack kick game, really. So DC at 9 is like some of his kick stuff's been class. Youngsy, I remember, was it against Ireland? It might have been like 2 years ago, where it's just he had some unbelievable attacking kicks, and probably haven't seen as many of those as I would like.
Yeah, and also I think like the high value of getting out from the ruck. I think it's even more valuable around what it obviously allows you to do and what it does to the defence. So I think making those decisions, and I think Danny Kerr does that well. However, I think there's other scum-offs. Who do you think will be the guys? So obviously Young's at some point, and Dan Robson, although younger, is he's not a young man. Who's the guys coming through? Do you think at 9?
I love Harry Randall.
Why? What is it you like about Hazard, other than he lives in the same town as you?
I just think he's like tough. His awareness is ridiculous. He has got a class kicking game. He just is. The way he wants to play the game in attack is like going to make it difficult for defences. But I mean, loads of good young guys. JVP. There's Mitch. There's just loads of them in there. Rafi Quirk. Like loads. It was almost like there was a scrum half coach in the pathway.
Yeah, there was for a period of time.
Sean Perry.
Is that the guy that used to look as though he should be coaching the front row? Sorry, Pez, I only care. Okay, mate, look, let's move on from England. I mean, I don't think, and this, actually, just want to say one last thing on England. So they had the second worst attack and the second worst defence from a numbers point of view, and they actually ended up in negative figures. But it was the defence that was the one for me. Like 121 points, 20 odd points worse than any of the other, the other nations. Really, like what was it that people had worked out about our defence that sort of caused us some problems? Did you think?
I think it would be different for different teams. I thought France were very French, weren't they? Kept the ball alive, kept the ball. Some of their tempo we struggled with and gave up yards. I think just the sheer intensity of Ireland, if I'm honest, like I'm not sure we matched that. And yet, I guess it's something that's coming towards you. Scotland, guess with they have some of their kick stuff again, like we've seen with Finn Russell at 10 and those options that maybe we don't get used to defending that often ourselves in training. They cause some trouble. What about you? What are you thinking?
Just similar stuff really. Wouldn't have anything to add. I think you've answered it well.
I was speaking to a football coach today. England would not play game of football in a competition, like a proper competition, like Europeans, with 6 lads who were playing in the championship or 5 or whatever it was, but weren't even playing. So, I mean, that just wouldn't happen. And I know they're really good players. And I know it's like unprecedented that, we've got a team that have been successful and got a lot of England players who are now in the championship. But I think that's like, I just wonder if Eddie would have done that again.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting. Maybe we'll get him on another pod and ask him. And I think certainly at the start, I think they were a little bit off it, weren't they? Didn't start the competition well. Sure, it impacted on their confidence, especially Faz. I think he had a couple of weeks where he wouldn't be up to his very high standards. Although I do think he finished quite well. He had a really strong game against the French. Obviously, the captaincy is something else that is added. Mate, I just want to move on to the Scots. What were your thoughts?
My thoughts, mate. You're King of Scotland. You're head of coach development
for Coach Logic.
SRU/Coach Logic.
I mean, great start. Moving away from England and deserved the win. They were on the day the better team. Just like really tigerish around the ball. Actually looked a lot more effective when moving it. clearly got their talisman. Finn Russell and him and Hogg at the back. I mean they've got a really good spine. That's what people could go, but it's Scotland. But mate, look at their spine. If you were to you could pick any spine in the team. What I mean by spine is 2, 8, 10, 12, 15. If you could pick those, you'd probably go for the French first, but the Scots would have a really strong spine. I thought Hogg was outstanding. Just creates lots of things, broken field, part of the line. I mean, his kicking is just phenomenal. Kicks a ball a bloody mile. Finn Russell, clearly anything can happen, and I think the tight fight or can match anybody, and I think their back row is strong. I mean, Watson was just outstanding.
Did you coach Hamish Watson when he was at Leicester?
No, he was at Oakham School. No, he's reasonably old. I think he'd be sort of the top end. No, I don't know that much about him other than when he's gone to Scotland. But I think he's just his all-round play. He's carry, tackle, jackal, all the stuff around back row stuff. I think it's, again, if you got points, if you had trump cards, he would probably get you the most points out of any back row. I think from what there'd be other back rows who would have, Curry's probably slightly better ball carrier. There'd be other players who would probably have more touch. But overall, I think he'd score really high across everything. I enjoyed watching them. I thought they had everything that I associated. I played loads of rugby in Scotland when I was a kid, and I kind of recognised them. Their identity, trying to play quick, terrorise the breakdown a bit, play to their strengths. That type of stuff. I was pleased to see. I do like it when the Scots do well. I've got a soft spot playing a lot of rugby up there. What was your views?
Yeah, same. I think their set piece was helpful. I think they've got an unbelievable back line. They've got quite some little fellas, and they've obviously got the big South African on the wing, who's a big fella as well, and broke the record for defenders beaten in the competition. Fair play. I mean, their front five are mobile, and their set piece stuff was class, which I think's tough. So I think having that just definitely helps them. And I guess I'm curious about Finn Russell, Gregor relationship. That's stuff that I get kind of excited about as a coach. You're thinking, wow, they went from this to this, and I would love to have heard some of those conversations.
What do you think it would be? Come on, we don't have a huge amount of intel, if any, really. But how do you think that's played out?
I just think they'll probably explore the gap between them and come to a place where they both make sense to both of them, haven't they? Everyone, coaches are often asking about, how do you coach Mavericks? How do you do? Well, people would say Finn Russell is a Maverick. He had some stuff go well. He had some stuff go less well. He ended up off the pitch, and when he gets sent off or when stuff goes wrong, he smiles, and I think that annoys some people. But maybe that's the best thing for him. I don't know. I'm hypothesizing, but I would love to have heard them, and I'm sure Gregor will have learnt loads from the conversation as well.
Hey, will you tell everyone what you're up to at Core 37?
Hi, Fletch. We're a teamwear brand based in the Northeast, and we're the sister company of Oddballs. We've got the largest sports sublimation factory in the UK, and we've produced for the biggest brands in Europe over the past 7 years. But with Core 37, our in-house brand, you can now access those prices direct to the customer.
Why would people use Core 37?
If I was to pick three, Fletch, it would be our lead time of 3 to 4 weeks, our price, which is lower than anybody else in the industry, and the fact that we're made here in the UK.
What's the stuff you're most proud of with Core 37?
There's loads of stuff, but the key one for me would be working for a company that genuinely believes in its own mission statement, which is to produce performance sportswear at an affordable price. And then underpinning that is the people. Everybody who works here is involved in grassroots sport in some way. And so we genuinely care about what we're doing here. Fletch, why do you want to partner with Core 37?
Apart from the fact you're a Geordie, great people, lots of people involved in sport, really affordable and top quality. Thanks for joining us, Wilkie. anyone who wants to find out more can go and have a play on their website at core-37.com, or they can reach out directly to Tom at core-37.com. I mean, and it wasn't clearly, they flattered to deceive a little bit, beat England, beat the French. However, I mean, they lost to the Welsh by a point, lost a player for quite a bit of the game, lost to Ireland by 3 points, beat Italy by 50. I think they have made significant strides.
Is that all they'd lost by, mate? 4 points.
Yeah. So they easily could have been. I mean, I can't believe you haven't done any research before we jumped on this pod, by the way. So yeah, I actually think I think their optimism is sort of well founded. I think they have found a style, found a way of getting the best out of Finn, Russell. I mean, clearly Hoggy needs to stay fit. I love it how I say Hoggy is.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
But Stuart Hogg.
Confusing him with Gavin Hogg from Ulster.
Gav Hogg from
Hogmeister, the Hogmeister.
I think they'd be the happiest. I know, well, that's a lie. The Welsh should be the happiest. We're going to talk about them in a sec, but I actually think the Scots will be, we are making progress. Everything I've heard and seen, I was fortunate enough to listen to him at a Six Nations conference around Gregor. I think he's a smart coach. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they back this up. Like what happens post the Lions. What's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 cycles, and then actually what sits below this. They've only got 2 professional teams, got a number of players playing in England. Like what's happening with their age group stuff? How they're going to keep this momentum on? Mate, Islands.
And again, sorry, but Gregor did organise worst stag do ever.
What was that?
Craig Townsend, his brother's stag do in St Andrews. All they wanted to do was play golf. No one wanted to drink.
What kind of stag do was that?
It was disappointing.
Are you sure it wasn't a golf holiday that you thought was a stag do?
I was asking if it was a golf holiday.
Yeah, sounds good. Come on, mate, Ireland. We've obviously one of your best mates, Jared Payne, best pal ever. What stuff did you notice? Because I mean, a fantastic result, 32-18. That's a big old score against England last game. What was happening before that?
I think their attack is. Oh mate, look, they're built. I mean, I actually thought the way they played against England was very much like Ireland of old, wasn't it? Just like hunting stuff down. I'm thinking like Simon Gagan, that type of stuff, chasing everything, harassing, like frustrating. I still think their attack's quite blunt, which sounds ridiculous given they scored 32 points against England.
There was only 2 tries. There was 6 penalties.
I don't think they're creative in attack, would be my view. I think they've got a really, strategic game still where, if they defend and they play territory and their set piece is strong, and then they can kind of beat some teams. I think they're going to have to add some other stuff, would be my view. And I'm always like, he's still a decent player, but is Sexton the person that's going to unlock some of that stuff? That's the stuff I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, look, and again, I think what they've done, I mean, if you take the French game as an example, like a lot more possession, a lot more territory, a lot more into the 20s too, loads more passing. I mean, it was like it was nearly 200 passes to nearly 100. So they sort of have the ball a bit. They don't make a lot of mistakes. The French made a lot more mistakes, as in stuff not going that well. But the French create those magic moments, 7 line breaks against the Irish 3. They're just much more capable.
Everyone was like a class, Furlong's like kind of double sidestep. Everyone was going crazy for it, but I don't know how many international games he's played. But I mean, and how many sidesteps he's done in all those international games. But why is it taking him so long?
To be fair, I do think he does it a lot for Leinster. We wouldn't watch as many games, but I think I think he'd be afforded more opportunities.
That's my point. Well, why wouldn't he be doing it for Ireland? I actually think that some of the Irish provinces have, over the last few years, so there's been some class Ulster tries recently, to be fair, as well, and then some of the stuff Leinster are playing, the pace they play at, and then it's a pretty rich time for Irish rugby. The provinces are playing some great stuff.
Yeah. And again, another stat just around offload. The French didn't have the ball as much, only passed it 110 times, offloaded 12 times. Irish offloaded 3 times. I think that's...
Ireland don't offload. Their attack is ruck to ruck to ruck.
Yeah, and I'm certainly in Ringrose. I mean, it's a player who I love watching him play. I think he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player. And possibly he's capable of more. I mean, what's your views on Sexton? So, I mean, like a magnificent game against England. Like, he was absolutely on fire. What's your general views of him? What's your thoughts of him?
I obviously don't know him, so he's. Oh mate, look, I mean, his strengths are obvious, aren't they? His kicking game is classic, and move a team around the pitch. He can organise other people. He clearly has high standards, and his empty chair is lack of. There's other ways to play the game. Like, do I think Ireland will win a World Cup with Sexton at 10? No. But of course, this is just pure speculation. So I could, of course, be wrong. And in 2023, he could be holding aloft the William Webb Ellis Trophy. I think he's, what do I see? I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously they don't get to go into their environment and see how much they are trying to evolve an attacking game. And is there a trajectory? Was it like that in the next game they offloaded a couple more times type thing? Or will it be that that's something they're going to start looking at now? And, we'll build some solid foundations and then we'll add to it from there. Who knows, I guess. But there's some, as we know, I mean, there's some skillful young players in Ireland, and their 20s, for example, have had a couple of good recent years age groups, and so some of those guys coming through. So Mike Lowry got man of the match the other day for Ulster. He's a little fellow with some skill, and lots of examples of those types of players.
Nice. Okay, mate. Let's go. Let's talk. Well, one of my favourite teams, the French, at their best. I don't think there's any greater side in rugby than the French.
You love Didier.
And Didier Etienne is somebody who I definitely admire, just because he put his head above the block and made some decisions and tried to influence some change. And that's definitely why I like him. Go on. What do you think about the French?
So French, aren't they?
That's such a...
Like, at their best, then at their worst, you're thinking, any danger of kicking the ball out at the end of the game? Like, I thought some of their attack stuff against England was absolutely ridiculous. I think they got a few Rolls Royce players in the back line.
Who's your favourite?
Well, your mate at 9's decent, isn't he? I do think that, if you can tame Teddy Thomas and get him involved in the game more and touching the ball, and same with Vakatawa. They got so many good backs, haven't they?
Yeah.
Why? Who's yours?
Who do I like? I like Dupont. I think he's I think he's special. I know, like, that word's probably overplayed a bit, but I think he is a special player. Both fly off, so Intermac, obviously he's been out injured a bit. I forgot the other guy's name. What's he called?
Is it Jalibert?
Jalibert. So I love Jalibert. I think they've got good balance in the midfield. With Fakatawa, I think it is. But I mean, all over the pitch. But Dupont would be the one for me. I think the 9-10. Gail Fugu is worth a shout. So there's only really 2 backs that whoever played against us that have really like seriously stood out. One of them was George Ford. George North. Like as a young player, he was almost undefendable. And Gail Ficku was the other one. Really tall, really rangy, good footwork. Just an amazing ability of keeping the ball away from people and keeping the ball alive. And I've actually been disappointed ever since then. But he started to come through. He plays a bit on the wing, plays a bit of centre. I think they're quite smart how they use him. Yeah, they're the ones who I'm like. And by the way, you could name everybody in their back line.
I like Aldrich at 8 as well. I think he connects the backs and forwards, and some of his link play and his offloading, and it's pretty cool. Mate, they're but then they're French, aren't they? They self-destruct, and they look like they're going to win the championship and get a Grand Slam, and they don't. And
yeah, I'll be interested. I think over the next 2 years, I think they should go on a roll. They should actually go like top, second, top. They should be in it. They should be beating Southern Hemisphere teams. It'll be interesting to see if this is just, as you've alluded to, is this just the French being a bit French? Because they dominated really age group stuff for the last 2 or 3 years, been really quite formidable around the World Cup stuff, especially. Is it going to roll? I think we've said a number of times, the world rugby needs the French playing well. It's just a much better place. It's like going to Glastonbury and, like, I don't know, some famous, what band would be on a Glastonbury for it to be like really good? Who are you thinking?
The Smiths.
Yeah, I was thinking more somewhere like.
You were thinking like Take That?
I was thinking the Spice Girls, if I'm honest. Come on, last one. Welsh, come on. I mean, what odds, seriously, would you have given them before the competition? Like, how much would you have given me?
What was the odds before the competition? I'm going to have a look. Odds pre-Six Nations on Wales.
Yeah, I think they'd be high.
5-2. That can't be right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. But go on.
No. 12-1. 12-1. That was France. I would have given you probably like 12-1. Mate. It's just fascinating, isn't it? Like that. I mean, they were literally terrible. Looked all over the place, no direction. There's this. Why is their defence changing? Like, it's gone from one extreme to another. Where's Pivac's attack gone? Actually, are they attacking like they were for Scarlets? And then I guess some key players probably take it by the scruff of the neck. Definitely heard that that's been something that's happened. They have some unbelievable players, but probably leaders in that team.
Such as?
I think Alan Wynne is one of the best leaders who's ever played the game.
What is it about his leadership that you admire?
I think it's action, but it's also like him being able to pull other people with him and connect. And I think he does a great job with the referees. I think they've got like other players that you just go, like Tipperick and Ken Owens, and just absolute action every. I don't know how they play week to week, quite frankly. I've no idea how people do it. It's just like relentless, isn't it?
Well, it is 7 days rest. For those people who like go down mines or do farming or what I mean. Like, they do have 7 days before the next game.
Yeah,
6 days. 6 days is a short turnaround. I'm thinking like 6 days is a long time to recover from a game of rugby. However,
and then I think they've also been like clever. They've started to integrate some of their younger lads in, so Brown or Botham or Louis Rees-Zammit, and I think they've done a real good job of that as well.
Did you see that from Zammit? So Zammit came to a couple of our camps, and he was charging around to Bristol when we were sort of. He was exploring this Welsh English thing because he went to a school in England. Like, what can you remember about him?
I remember his dad being really smartly dressed. If you remember, we played Wales, didn't we? We played for Wales at 18s, and we played down at, I think it was Ponty or something, we played the game at. And yeah, I guess you would go, look, he's really quick, and that's really helpful at the top end of the game. He possibly, he wouldn't get on the ball much. He wouldn't have that much kind of necessarily awareness. He wouldn't be getting 10, 15, 20 touches a game, like impacting the game. But I guess when he gets the ball, he's lightning quick, and he's class at finishing. So yeah, but however it's worked out, he's like ended up playing for Gloucester and then Wales and killing it, to be honest. What did you think when you saw him?
Acceleration.
Yeah.
Like, I think there was once we played Rondo at the start, and I thought, he's all right. He's honestly, I just thought, yeah, he's decent. Like, yeah, great lads, great to see him. Probably wouldn't get in our team, but like, and then we played a slightly bigger pitch, and somebody giving them balls, he was almost standing still, and he just went like. There's only 2 or 3 players. One of them would be Wadey. Wadey's the guy that I went, fuck, like he is fast, and like Luke, like as Zamet was the same. He was like, wow, that is acceleration. So much better out wide, much better giving the ball in a bit of space or on the end of something, and he'll finish all day. And clearly he's worked on the other stuff. I've been impressed with his kicking.
Even look back to some of his games earlier in the season for Gloucester. He played at 15, didn't he? And dropped a few balls and had a tough day. And he's obviously got some.
Yeah, he's got a lot of confidence.
And some people around him that are just helping him. So he'll have some, Kingy and Tom Waldock, who young coaches will be mega keen to help him. He'll be, some people must be doing some good stuff around him.
Yeah, so look, anything else about the Welsh? Because, I mean, they lead in try scorers, 20 tries, like average 4 game another would have played.
I actually played against Josh Navidi. So I'm pretty sure he played for Carmarthen Quins, and I played 7, he played 7, and that's how young I am. I think he was about 17, if I'm honest. Someone can fact check this. And I think he's been pretty unbelievable as well, to be honest.
If you saw, we've given a shout out to 2 players. Like who would be the other? Let's go 3. So let's go like a third of their team. Who's the other? If we're taking up they are the 2, so Navidi and Zamet, who's the other 3 players that have made the biggest difference, or had the biggest impact on Wales?
Alwen.
Yeah.
I do think, it's hard to look past Dan Bigger, isn't it? Because he's like, moves that team forward. But to be fair, I'm going to mention everyone, okay? Callum Sheedy played. Callum played bloody well off the bench. I saw him on the high street today. And I actually think George, I'm going to mention them all.
You can't, man. 5.
I'm going to pick them on in a second, but I think George North at centre has been class. There was probably a bit of a, how's that going to work out? But I think he's been class. So I'm going to go, we've got Reece Zamet and we've got Tipperick. Are they given, are they? I'm going to add Alwen to that. I'm going to add Navidi to that, and I'm going to go against all the other ones I've said. And I said, I'm going to say Jonathan Davis.
Why Jonathan Davis?
Because you love him.
I do love Jonathan Davis. Yeah, I think he's an absolute class player. He's a type of player, a bit like Brian O'Driscoll, just goes like a bit more flash. But when you actually go back and you watch their stuff, so say you're going like I want to clip it because I want to share with the play. Just go, wow, like. Just amazing stuff. Like real good consistency, lots of good impact. Lots of the stuff that's happening that's good about the team is sort of happening around him. I'm going to go my 5 players. Who am I going to pick? So I would go Zamet. So Lou Zamet, I think, in terms of off the bench, I'd go Bigger. I'd go Loosehead Wyn Jones.
Because of what your scrimmaging knowledge.
Yeah, just because I think he does some good stuff around the ball, both sides of the ball. I think he's smart. I think he's a skillful player. How many's at 3? I'm going to go Ken Owens because I just think Alan Wyn Jones
class. He's got best Twitter.
I just think he's the one that I think he complements Wyn Jones really well. Wyn Jones looks like obviously we know he's ultra competitive around training and high standards and all that sort of stuff. But I think Ken Owens is I think he would be great for morale. If his Twitter's anything to go by,
it's not his Twitter. It's called it's called something like the Sheriff. It's really.
So him
and Alan Wynne are basically like old school rugby players, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think Toby Faletau, I think he had 4 or 5 moments that were really critical moments in games. So I can remember one run up the outside where he sort of offloaded that led to a try, because Wales had some really tight games, 2 or 3 games won by 3 points.
Who's in your Lions coaching team, mate? I'm giving you. You can have attack, defence, forwards, and another coach. Who are you taking?
Gregor Townsend, attack. I just think if you free him up from the other stuff and you go, right, look, this is how we want to play against the South Africans, then so he would be my attack. Defence, I'll come back to it. Who did he say? Forwards?
Yeah, they're the guys with the low numbers.
Who was the pack that I enjoyed watching most? I actually like the Welsh pack, to be fair. I like watching the Welsh. Who's coaching the Welsh pack? Just remind me.
Robin McBride.
Yeah.
And he looks really hard.
Yeah, he looks tough.
He'd be a good person to take.
Defence coach, Jared Payne.
Oh, no, big shout out for Jared.
Yeah, I think he's don't think you have to coach international rugby. I think he's clearly got good reputation and good credibility as a player. I think he's young. I think he's thinking differently to lots of defence coaches. I think that would be I would always take a coach that a bit like the player. Like, I know it's the Barbarians a bit more than the Lions, but I wouldn't just be looking at the international teams for coaches. So I think by definition, there's some better coaches.
Who's your +1? Who's your +1 coach? I know you're going to pick.
You just say that to try and influence me.
I know you're going to pick.
What, as a coach?
Yeah, you're +1. So you got forwards, backs. You got forwards, attack, defence.
I'd probably go back and get Scotty Wiseman. Why? Who do you think I was going to say?
Lanny.
Yeah, I think I would have Lanny running it, but that's just me. I wouldn't. I would have Lanny instead of Warren Gatlin, to be honest.
Right.
I think what was it? Had his goals and he's had some cool stuff, and we kind of know his brand a bit, and I know he gets on really well with him. Clearly, he must have some stuff on them. But I think there's some guys who are from the British Lions regions and areas who would deserve the chance.
Nice.
Yeah, I think Lanny would be a really good coaching coordinator across all the coaches. If you're going to have another role, get Lanny in the mix.
Strong.
I love how Leinster play. I love watching them play. Go on, who would you have? What's your coaching?
I think Leinster could offload more. I'd probably go same with Gregor. I do think Steve Tandy's done a good job at Scotland as defence coach. I think he's made a big impact.
It's going to be a Scottish only.
Forwards, Pete Watton. Forwards coach. Yeah, maybe Robbie McBride, and maybe Borfers. Line out's going to be, maybe I'll take both. Maybe I'll have a scrum and a line out coach. And then my floating coach would be, I need an empty chair. Aidan McNulty.
Yeah, he'd be cool, wouldn't he? Class. Aidan would be definitely
he'd save on costs because he'd pay himself to go.
Yeah, he would. And to be fair, I think as long as he was afforded the opportunity to be himself, he would be a really good disruptor.
Yeah, great.
Really creative. Yeah. Cool, mate. Well, look, thanks for the Six Nations check-in, everybody. We had a list of lots of really important people wanted to do the pod this week, but we said, actually, no, I think the public want to hear from us.
I think they want to hear us hypothesize and guess and make stuff up and put it out as an hour of informative chat.
Yeah. Well, look, if you've got this far, well done. I can't believe you have. But yeah, thanks, Rusty. I've enjoyed that. Got me thinking a little bit about it. Looking forward to the next. I'm really looking forward to the Lions. I'm looking forward to the Lions.
Have you got a ticket for the final test in a box?
I believe you have. Potentially. I'm not sure anybody will be going to South Africa then, but anyway, we'll wait and see. Mate.
Over and out.
Over and out.